Hi guys, welcome to Action Blackbelt podcast. In this episode, my guest will be Mary Stevens, and we'll be talking about her joint venture with Jamie Clubb, a course called Animal Instinct that is focusing on teaching young people self-defense and self-protection. This course is aimed at instructors who running a club might be teaching children, schools, etc., that they can learn how to teach children self-protection that includes a awareness, assertiveness, escapes, and taking the physical action. In this episode, again, we had some problems with a microphone, and I'm sounding really, really bad, but Mary Stevens sounds superb. So that's all you need to have. There's a few questions from me, but rest is guided by Mary, answering all the questions. I tried to boost the sound as much as I could, and I hope that it's gonna work for you. But my apologies. Hopefully now, as you can hear, the problem is solved, and the sound quality will be better from now on. Without further ado, let's listen to Mary. Hello, Mary. Nice to see you again. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Always pleasure to see your post online, and like today with the um, amount of mums having their careers ruined. It's not only mums; it's uprising of the men as well.
Yeah, well, I think, everybody has the right to have their career ruined by children, and I'm very egalitarian about that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but you asked a question about a how many mums I see and that see in the school, and as I said, I think the metrics by the drop-off is not the accurate one
Hmm.
because there's a lot of people working from school, so the parents changing, and like, there's a lot of grandparents. And but yeah, interesting topic nonetheless.
Yeah, definitely, because there isn't really a solution to that. I think that outcomes for children can be good for children to be in childcare if that's going to be the best thing for them to get focused attention. Um, I think nobody denies that the optimum thing for a very young child is to have undivided attention of a carer or carers that they, regular, that they're familiar with. And the data does show definitely that it doesn't matter if that is the mother or the father, as long as they have the opportunity to create that bond. And within our system, parents are heavily penalised for taking time off. It does impact on their career progression, or as for you and for me, that takes career progression just doesn't become a thing. I wanted to look after my children when they were very small,
Mm.
and that meant that I prioritized them over my career. My career turned into, sorry, this is a nerd joke, but uh, a verb, not a noun. So it's it's a problem. And I think when you look at the data, as stark as the data is, sorry, here comes the dog. Hello, dog. Sorry, would you like to say? Oh no, he's run off. He's camera shy.
Oh no, it's not a ugly Polish person. Run.
Yes, exactly. He's terrified of Polish people. He's trying to be like that. Um, yeah, I think that for the system undervalues the role of the father. The role of the father, if it were, we know, I mean, there's all sorts of studies that demonstrate that if fathers get the opportunity to bond with their children at their early stages, it has a beneficial effect for them as well. And that's not to say that I think we should exclude mothers. I was privileged to have that time with my children, and I think that parents should have the flexibility to do that, but to acknowledge that it is very damaging. You have to make choices, but there should be more flexibility. I think since COVID and we have more working from home flexibility,
Mm.
employers have started to think around the topic a little bit more. I just think they're not perhaps going far enough. It's not sufficiently radical yet.
Mm. But looking on the bright side, there's always silver lining. So if you wouldn't take care of the children, and I wouldn't decide to take the full time of my children, we wouldn't probably sitting here talking about the dog attacking you and looking like he wants to play. We wouldn't be talking about your project Animal Instinct. So, there's always something for a reason, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that it puts you squarely in the position of understanding, not that Anna doesn't, obviously, but what your children face on a daily basis, and how young it's important to start to build self-protection education in from a very young age, so that it becomes habitual, and so that children develop the sort of demeanor and behaviors that will mean that they're less likely to get targeted. And that's where I think the real value of starting self-protection education from 4 years old can be seen, because you think, people think, it's mad. They think self-defense and they think physical. They're not really thinking about managing a friendship group and not being pushed around, and learning to talk to adults when you need to, and be heard by adults, because obviously in most kind of group settings, staff are very, very busy, and it's underfunded, and they have far too many children to look after at any one stage, and it can be quite difficult. If you're a well-behaved child, sometimes it can be difficult to get noticed in that setting. So
that's what we noticed with Max and Lauren in school, that they're playing outside on the school break or playtime, and Max said, somebody was pushing you or something, and he said, "What did you do?" I went to the teachers, but nothing happened because they're too busy.
Yeah, that's an incredibly common story. And with kids in my classes, we talk about what to do when that happens, when to let it go, because obviously there are sometimes that they can let it go, but mostly to think about if it's a repeated behavior and it's not something that you want to put up with, then there are things that you can do. So making sure that you're speaking to your teacher, or finding a different teacher to speak to, or like recruiting your adult to help you speak to somebody, that there are things that you can do so that you don't feel disempowered by that. Because the whole point of children's self-protection is that they should know when they should access their supervising adults, because they're children. They don't have to do everything by themselves. There should be people around to support them. So understanding how and when to access that support network is a really important part of that training.
So let's start from a different angle. Let's start on advertising. So I am the parent of 2 young children. I'm possibly going to be teaching kids in my future class. Highly unlikely, but it might be the possibility. Why should I invest my money in the Animal Instinct?
Well, sorry, I just love the idea of you
not buying of a cup, Anxious Blackbird mug, which is disappearing.
It's a very, very beautiful mug. I only wish I had mine with me. I have only my Athena mug with which to advertise. I don't have my Anxious Black Belt mug with me. I should take it with me everywhere I go, just in case I have the opportunity of holding it up at any stage. Sponsored by Theodore. Why should you do? Well, firstly, I love the idea of you being a children's instructor, Les. That it brings that whole clown aspect of your personality to life. You are, Mr. Fun day and night, and that Polish smile would be cracking all day long. It'd be marvelous. No, I think it would be great. But why should you do it? Well, because it's an easy way of making sure that if you have really, you don't want to spend years studying self-protection, that you can honestly and truthfully deliver some self-protection education to the children in your class without having to do the research that Jamie and I have done over the last, it's taken us 5 years to make this program. And obviously Jamie's been involved in children's self-protection way longer than that. Same for me. I've been teaching children's martial arts for a really long time, and trying to connect the dots between what, for me, I started karate when my son started karate, and that was because he was being bullied. So it's that natural connection between what is there that we can take from a martial arts context that's going to make our children safer, not necessarily in the future in, outside the chip shop on a Friday night, kind of, am I allowed to swear? Bullshit. Yeah. But right now, age 4 in the playground, when somebody's pushing you, or, when you're 8 and all the girls in your class have ganged up on you, or, when you're 14 and somebody like 18 is sending you texts and you don't really know quite what to do about that, but you feel like it's something you have to keep to yourself. Or like with some of the people that Chris and I have dealt with, when you're, you know, a 16-year-old waitress and your boss starts touching you and you don't know how to manage that because of the power dynamics in that relationship. So it's no good leaving it until people are grown up and then going, and now here is your self-protection education. We need to try and build it right in an age appropriate way. I mean, Jamie and I've put weapons defense work in our 7 to 11-year-olds because the reality is that the children that I have in my classes are already needing information about that, and they certainly, even the littlest ones, need information about cyber safety and security on your devices, accepting parental rules on that and understanding why that's important. And pretty much everybody in my 7 to 11-year-olds class has seen or been exposed to some kind of inappropriate content online. So it's a real...
it's a lot of that stuff going. Our son as well is asking now, he's 8, and when I can have my phone and stuff like that and access to internet. All my friends have it.
Yes.
Because they're not, but they're trying their way. But I think that we are very fortunate with Max that we've always been explaining to him everything as it is. So he's got a very scientifically geared brain. So I said, listen, studies showing that you as a young person up to 11 years old, you shouldn't have a social media access and internet access because it's just not good for you. He didn't ask again. So I think we're very fortunate, but not everybody is as fortunate. And I think there's, learning from Jamie through his books and podcasts and stuff. We using some of the stuff probably you've got in the Animal Instinct. How do you find the real helpful adults who you can talk to, how to choose it, and those games you included like in the shop and stuff like that. I really enjoyed and my kids really like as well.
Yeah. And it's all about, Jamie gets fed up of us using the words agency and autonomy because he feels that we perhaps overdo that. But it's really, they're such important concepts that we want children to be independent. We want them to be safe and we want them to be happy. And those things are the key tenets of the self-protection program, that they learn how to manage situations for themselves because, as Jamie's book says, when parents aren't around, they need to be able to do that for themselves. So for us, those are, things like supervised shop purchases. That's a great game. It may seem like really, really straightforward and obvious, but for most parents, most of the time, when they're super busy, they don't necessarily have time to give the agency to the child and slow down a little bit to allow them to do that. But it's so beneficial to the kids if they can manage to do that.
I'm gonna try here because use you a bit because you are English teacher. What actually agency means? Because when I hear agency, I think about a government stuff or something. What actually agency means?
So really, the power to get something done.
Oh.
So if I'm giving you agency, then I'm giving you the ability to make decisions. And allowing for the fact that you might make wrong decisions. And that's all part of the process because obviously we learn best from mistakes. So if you have agency, then yes, that gives you power over what happens.
And I think this is one of the key things to the development of the children. Let them get burned a little bit, obviously within the certain margins. But let them do stuff. And I'm reading a book actually now that in Japan they're making spaces for children in schools where they're not seen, so they can go and do stuff unsupervised. And apparently that's got a really good results for their mental health. Just being not supervised, have to deal with stuff what's going on there, and they know that nobody's seeing them.
Yeah, I think we all need privacy from time to time. And that's, something that kids, particularly this COVID generation, have not had a lot of. So, certainly by the age of 5 and 6, children should have some unsupervised time where they can access an adult if they need to, but mostly they can manage things for themselves. And that's how a lot of situations come up between children, where they learn some conflict resolution, and how to deal with particular situations without always being, having helicopter adults over them, micromanaging them. And you're right, in terms of mental health, I think that is really important. And we really are at the moment looking at a massive mental health crisis across all. I've been waiting for things to improve, but they really are not improving yet. And I don't understand, like the scars of COVID and the pandemic and the isolation that children had at that time run really deep, and they're showing themselves in different ways in every layer, if you see what I mean. We have 4 and 5 year olds who really struggle in group environment, having missed some early socialization. And we have, teenagers, the rate of school absenteeism is gigantic, because having to cooperate with that very inflexible environment after having had time learning from home is a really difficult transition for them to jump back. Particularly, I think, is because when the transition back to school was made, it wasn't like it was before. They were being taught, this is a dangerous environment, you need to stay away from everybody, you have to all of that management of personal space and the necessary kind of isolation within a group that happened at that time has taken a long time to go away. And I think it hit at some very important developmental stages.
For sure. Like I said, I'm reading the book, with the title. I'll put it in the show notes. Although it's about America's stuff, but like you said, we've been expecting that with all the care and support the kids get, it should be the healthiest generation. And it's completely opposite. I think the quote was, I'm not sure of the number, but it was either 3,000 or 4,000% increase in mental health of young people in the States. Because the suggestion is that it is because of the micromanagement and people pre-warning them, or it's something's going to happen, prepare yourself for it, which leads to them developing an anxiety before they get the stress stimuli, which is hyping it up all the time, and as well being tracked all the time. I don't know how it's in the UK, although everybody using Snapchat and they tracking themselves all the time, 24 hours a day, where your friends are, what they do exactly. That must be really stressful. Nobody likes to work from our generation and being looked at our hands all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a form of hypervigilance, which is, again, something that, as Jamie teaches it, there's awareness, which is a rational assessment of what's going on, that steady level of risk assessment that is not paranoia. And then hypervigilance, where it's difficult to evaluate what really are the risks around you because you're worried about everything. And it's a very unhealthy state for a human brain to be in.
Yep, for sure. Any resolution for that? Do you think that self-protection and giving children more autonomy is the solution?
Absolutely, I do. I mean, I wouldn't just say that because that's obviously the part of the program that we're teaching, although it's convenient that is actually the case. But I think that validating children's fears and listening to children is really, really important so that you can help them establish what is a threat and what is not a threat, how to manage the threats that are real, how to cope with their anxiety around the threats that are less important. All of that is by necessity built into a program where their independence is kind of central. So, it's exactly as you said, that children learning to fail in a supported environment is a really good way to grow. So, for example, in many martial arts schools, we do a lot of games, and children learn to fail, they learn to lose, they learn to collaborate, they learn to fall over and pick themselves up without that being a disaster. And some of them are struggling with that a lot more than they used to. So a callback to the current generation of small people, are struggling a lot more with contact games and games where they don't win. But if you consistently reinforce the benefits of those games, praising children when they cope with it, not for winning, but for, I know that sounds, this is a little bit kind of, oh, praise them for taking part, not for winning. And, oh, they'll never learn. Yes, they will learn. Yes, they will learn if you do that. And if they learn that it's okay to fail, then, and it doesn't kill you. You don't have to run to mummy and jump on mummy's lap. If you fall over, you can rub your knee and take a few deep breaths and, suck it up and get back in the game. And if you then praised for that, then that's a really good thing. And at 5 or 6 years old, these are some big skills for some children.
I've seen in our school, there's a change. So when Max was in primary, he took part in a class, they had a sports day and everybody got the medal. Everybody was the winner. But next year, they've changed it and actually was the winners and the losers. And now they've got a athletics day. So the 4 schools from the region compete together in a sports center. And actually people have been choose to represent the school, and some children, including my daughter, having been chosen. And for her, it was a big deal. So we talked about it. I said, you're just not good. This is the reality. You're not built for running fast. You're built for other things. You might be, super strong or something like that. And she processed it the next day. She said, I don't want to do athletics. I want the school to do a weightlifting championships because I'm super strong. And she's going with a big kettlebell, lifting stuff up, but doesn't mention about athletics again, because, we explained to her, you just cannot do everything what other people do. We all build differently. We all got different knack, taking a quote from a Bing, but different knacks for different things, and Max was chosen to go to athletics, and Lauren was not happy about it, but she dealt with it, and now she wants a powerlifting competition in school. Hey ho.
So say that, I'd say that's very healthy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice to see that change in school. I don't know if that's everywhere or it's our school only, but I was like, really happy that it's happening to be back on. If you are good, you put the effort, you get the reward. If you don't try, why should you get the reward?
I think from what I gather, a lot of schools are quite lost in how they should navigate things at the moment because they don't have the mental health expertise that they need. Mental health services in the UK, at least, are desperately underfunded, understaffed. And if you think that, you're really worried because your child has potentially an eating disorder at a very young age, but that help is a long way off. I mean, things like eating disorders, to be fair, they prioritize as much as they can. But, if you consider that other types of mental, like anxiety, for example, a child might not be able to go to school because they're so anxious, and then help for the parents is 2 years away down the line.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, got 2 friends who've got girls, in both cases, girls who've got eating disorders, anorexia, and they only get the help when it's the hospital time stage. And often they have to lie to NHS and stuff to just get the help. That is worse than it is because, they're waiting to the very last second to kind of save them, push them back home, and wait till they get back to the hospital again. So very, very dire situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, the way that things are at the moment, there's sore need for a reality-based, honest program, and that's really what we're trying to do. A realistic assessment of what a child can manage. I had a little boy in my class the other day, and we were doing like defenses against grabs, which is some part of the. We do some foundational skills with the littlest age group to build habits and that sort of thing. This, he might be 6, 7 years old. And I was like, what are you going to do? I was just allowing him to Freestyle, what are you going to do if I grab you here? He's like, I'll armbar you. I'm like, no, you're not going to armbar me. He's like, yes, I would. I said, go ahead, you know. And he's like, he's tiny and I'm a giant, and he started to get upset. So I was like, karate doesn't make you a superhero. You understand that, right? And I'm never going to teach you that you've got skills that, I'm never going to allow you to think that you have skills that you don't have, because that's going to make you less safe, not more safe. So then we talk about, what can he actually do? What has he got that's actually in his toolbox that he would be able to use to deal with in this particular situation? And so then he cheered up again, because he realized that it wasn't just, one option. But I think for me, in all the work that I do with self-defense, it has to be reality-based, because most of the people that I'm dealing with are significantly less strong than the people who are likely to attack them. So, most things that would work by bouncers for bouncers are not going to be on the table. They're not in that toolbox.
So I heard something this week. I'm not sure if it's how true it is for UK, but how do you go? That most of the child predators moved online with Instagram and lockdowns, because there's no many children on the playgrounds. It's easier access children online than actually being watched on the playgrounds. What's your take on that?
I would say that any kind of data in that field is, very difficult to be accurate about anyway. It's all very speculative. I think we know there has certainly been a huge surge in predators preying on children online. That's definitely true. And there's so many different ways that they can access that. And children know about it far ahead of the adults. They know what's needed. A lot of the cyber safety stuff, for me, I'm asking the children.
All right.
When we have discussions, they share important safety tips, because they're very good at their own personal safety, and they understand the value of sharing that as a community and highlighting where the dangers are. And they have their, if they have Minecraft, they'll set up their own server, or all these different kind of things that they have to protect themselves. In terms of whether that's meant that there are fewer predators, out and about in the playground or watching the playground, I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm not monitoring playgrounds. I think the main thing about that's a massive fear for parents, a huge fear, but it's so disproportionate, because the most likely person to abduct a child is the estranged parent. The most likely person to sexually abuse a child is somebody in the family circle or close friends. It's not a predator in the bush outside the playground. It's people that they know. And so teaching children to be in control of their bodies and to understand how to create boundaries with people who are making them feel uncomfortable, and to make sure that they talk to people about incidents. This is the most important way to protect them in terms of predators that might actually get a hold of them. Making sure that if you're in a very complex family situation, they always know who's picking them up, and that they have, systems in place. They have their, passwords if somebody else is picking them up, and all of these different kind of family safety protocols. These are the most important things, because the predators, they're people that they know. They're people in their immediate circle. Not always, but mostly.
This is kind of a very similar to the women's dangers, isn't it? Because for men, that's not the case, but for women, it is somebody who you know, who you trust, most probably, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The women that get murdered, 52% of them, it's by their partner or their ex-partner. 13% of them, it's by their son. It's people that they know. That's, figures from the UK. And certainly for a woman, the figures are not exact, but across the world, it's somewhere like 90%, 80 to 90%. It's people that she knows. It's not a stranger in an alleyway, but that's what's being taught. So for children to be learning stranger danger is unhelpful, because often it's strangers that they need to recruit. It's when they get lost, instead of being like, don't talk to strangers, it needs to be, well, which strangers are the safest ones to speak to? How, I mean, you know, for our little ones, the protocol over, excuse me, can you help me? I've lost my mum. This is her number. And then learning to say the number clearly enough that the person can type it into their phone. And a number of children in my school have used that very successfully, having been separated from parents at the playground, or if they've been dawdling on a walk and they've lost their adult. So learning how to deal with like, who is a stranger? How do we manage strangers? Never go anywhere with a stranger, but strangers are mostly nice people. But this is important for children to understand. Then they can deal with nuance. Children can manage nuance if it's explained to them. It doesn't have to be binary.
Yeah, we've been talking with Max as well, because sometimes we're going and said, "Oh, don't talk to strangers." I said, no, because if somebody is passing you by on the street and says good morning, it's polite to reply, right? If it doesn't offer you anything, just smiled at you and said good morning, it is okay to reply good morning, especially when you're going with your parent, when you know. So
Yeah.
just learning, teaching them to spot the like you said, nuances, and as well learn the behaviors of the country you are in, right?
Yeah, and that culture. Yeah, and I think that's where in our animal instincts for the instructor, managing group discussions is a really important way that we do this education. So children love to contribute to this kind of thing. So is it okay if you're with your dad and somebody says good morning and you say good morning back? Is that okay? Yes. If you're in the playground and your dad's the other side of the playground with your sister and somebody comes up alongside and says, hello, little boy, what's your name? Then, you know, that's not the same situation. So what's different about that situation? And kids are quite happy to workshop this stuff, and they understand that that situations are different.
So how did you layer, what is there layers to your course? Is there the course for parents, course for teachers? How is the structure, and what's the content of it?
So the first round that we've done is aimed at instructors. So people who, like you were saying before, might want to take personal safety education into their taekwondo class, into their karate class, or into their scout group, or, you know, it doesn't have to be just martial arts based, because all of this stuff is kind of generic safety education. And it's mostly aimed at the teachers at the moment, although I think there's a lot of useful content in there for parents as well. And parents would benefit from looking at the course and making sure that they're plugging, particularly because in the youngest age groups, there's a lot of stuff where we're recommending that parents work in collaboration. So for the full certification, they get like booklets. So the kids take the booklets home and they get all their activities ticked off to get their badge for, you know, meerkat or rabbit or whichever. And that requires collaboration with the parents, which I think is a very healthy thing anyway. You know, if you had Max or Lauren come home and you'd been asked to, you know, do next time you walk to the park, get them to pick out 4 red things, 5 animals, and then when you get home, what was the number of the bus, how many, you know, all of that kind of thing, where you're getting them to be used to build the habit of being aware of what's around them. You know, how many people were standing at the bus stop with us? Do you remember how many of them were wearing hats, or, you know, which was the one that had the dog? You just, all those kind of little observation games, which are good for parents to play with children anyway, just to structure that. So for now, the main focus is targeting teachers, but I think there's certainly benefits for parents as well.
So what animals you chose and why?
Okay, so this is something that we did back in 2019 when we first started really shaping this, instead of just talking about doing a course, where we really started to get into the nitty gritty of what we would want to put in each age group. And there was quite a lot of discussion, as you can imagine, between myself and Jamie about what would be the appropriate animals. But in the end, we were
You mean he was talking, you've been listening?
we were both talking and both listening. It's a very collaborative partnership. For anybody who's watching this that doesn't know Jamie, Jamie is famous for being able to talk. He has gills, I think. He doesn't read like a normal person.
Also take the occasional opportunity to recommend Chimera martial arts podcast. Good listen from Jamie.
100%, yeah, definitely. And that's how I first came across Jamie, and then discovered that he wasn't too far away from me. So that was really cool, because he's a fantastic teacher and he's been brilliant as a colleague and as a trainer for myself over the last few years as well. He's a legend. So also has a lot of animals in his background, due to the fact that he grew up in a traveling circus and his mum took care of so many animals. So he shared his early life. He was in a caravan with leopards and lions. And
if you want to listen to Jamie's story, there's going to be a link to the podcast I done with him not long ago, and you can get all that in the details, and I maybe put 2 words in.
Excellent. So I don't need to say all that now. So Jamie has a lot of animal instincts. Was good for us because he's very tuned into animals anyway, and I liked it as a concept. Because a lot of the behaviors that we have instinctively we suppress. So our animal instincts are very informative and help to keep us safe, but due to socialization and urbanization, we tend not to use our senses as much as we should, and we don't trust our instincts. So for us, it was a really solid concept that we want children to allow themselves to be animals, in the sense of that they listen to their instincts and respond to them for their safety, which is quite a cool idea, I think. And so here we have the meerkat, which is the littlest ones, because that's all about building really good awareness skills. So obviously the image of the meerkat looking around itself all the time, that's what we want for our 4 to 7-year-olds, that they develop really good awareness skills. Beyond that, they should always have adults on hand. So they shouldn't need to do much beyond that. Then you've got the rabbit, and I think our rabbit is so cute. That might be my favorite one of all the little pictures. The rabbit sounds like something that should be nervous, but actually the rabbit is fantastically agile and a brilliant at evasion. So this is the age when children start to have less direct supervision from adults, and so like suitable evasion of danger becomes important. And then we start to get into the leadership levels. So bear is the 11 to 16. So they start to take responsibility more for themselves and also for their peers. So as teenagers, peer support becomes really, really important, and we want our students in that age group to become good young leaders, and without putting too much responsibility on them, and because they are teenagers, and teenagers are either, they can alternate between being fantastically grown up and really needing to be children still, and they are still children. They have the capacity to develop great responsibility at that age, and that's something we like to nurture. And then we had to go with Chimera being the last level, just because it's been Jamie's emblem for such a long time, and it satisfyingly unifies many different animals and skills, and symbolizes also the chaotic nature of the world of self-defense, because you can train in many different ways, but self-defense itself, relationships are messy, people are messy, you have to be able to adapt. And so in our key words as well, we have observe, adapt, protect, and lead, which are powerful words, that are attributes that any student that completes the whole course should be able to come out with those attributes.
Awesome. I think that's a very accurate representation of the stages of development. Could you, how to phrase it? Could you give out, I don't want to, spoil your course, but could you
No,
give
no.
out one essential, like a key, the master skill for each level? What would be that
For each
one
level, ooh,
essential? Because I'm
so
guessing
that
you're
would,
building up the skills, so one kind of a must-have skill that they would master or learn after going through your course or through the program. I know it's a difficult
yeah,
question, but
okay. No, 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 it's an interesting question, and I'm at risk of answering it really, really with way too much detail. Um, Perhaps if I start at the top and work down,
okay.
as because I was just talking about the chaos in the chimera level. So we feel that the 16 plus age group, the 16 to 18s, we're really trying to prepare them for proper independence. So a lot of kids are going to maybe go away to university at 18 or beyond, or they're going to be spending a significant amount of time. And it's a very dangerous age. You know, young men will have got a high death rate in cars at that age. Women too, but often it's boys driving that will behave in a reckless way. And there's all sorts of other dangers that they will meet. And we want our chimeras to be fully prepared, to be robust against the influence of peers, if the peers are behaving in a dangerous way, capable of taking care of themselves in any situation, and looking after themselves, so that them, have really good mental health, really good physical health, and that they are capable, and that their peers will maybe look to them for leadership and support. For the bears, we still have those leadership overtones, that they should be a good role model. They know that they're developing still, and so maintaining good communications with the adults around them, but also looking out for their friends. Those are important aspects of bear. And again, for that age group, for example, they would need to think about at what point would they bust open a friend's secret. Let's say that their friend is doing something that they think is a really bad idea and think potentially could be dangerous. Then, we've had instances where a 14 or 15-year-old girl might be getting herself into all sorts of trouble, and the friend will then speak to an adult or a sibling and start to access the adults in that situation. So really clearly understanding that friendship and loyalty is really important, but also safety needs to come first. Because teenagers don't have the mental development always to make fantastically good decisions all the time, because they're still growing. And that's really important. For me as well, a big focus with that age group is trying to teach the teenagers to talk to their parents in a way that allows the parents to realize that they're growing up, because it's very normal for teenagers to want extra privileges, and not necessarily to behave to the parents in a way that shows that they deserve them. So parents sometimes are slow to see their children growing up, which is understandable. But if the child is consistently trustworthy, doesn't abuse their privileges, does their homework, turns up when they say they're going to turn up, and is as truthful as they can with their parents, then that's the fastest way. The fastest way to build trust is there are no hacks for that. And they need to understand that. So that's an important thing for them. The rabbits, being nice to your peers, and so there's a lot of friendship issues in this particular age group. So not allowing bullying to develop, verbal abuse, that kind of thing. So building really good habits of sometimes calling out other kids when they are being horrible, or again, learning when to consult adults in an effective way. That's a key skill for that age group. And then all the way down to the meerkats. Self-regulation for them, emotional articulacy, because it's such an important thing that is often overlooked. There's a brilliant project called Think Equal, which is really making great progress in teaching young children how to be articulate about their emotions, how to validate their own emotions, and then use that in de-escalating themselves and adults around them. And you'd be amazed how effective it is if it's explicitly taught. And it's something that I think we do touch on in our program, because for children to learn, self-defense starts with a self always. So self-control is a key part of that. And you can't control yourself unless you start to understand what's going on. So recognizing when you're upset, when you're angry, we have lessons on that's built into the program. And I think that's probably the most important one for that meerkat level.
Do you have a physical aspect in the course as well? How that goes with a mental aspect?
So the physical side of the course is something that is for further down the line. What we wanted to do first of all is to commit our soft skills program, our non-physical skills, to online courses so that people could access that and start to implement that. Because obviously a lot of the people teaching this are working martial artists. So they are running, physical drills with the students. The exact physical drills that we like to see we already have mapped out. And the idea is that anybody who completes all 4 online courses, if they would like to do the full certification, they'll come to us for a day and we'll make sure that they have all the basic skills that we think each age group needs. In the meerkat, it's very foundational skills. We're teaching good footwork and agility and all of these different kind of escape skills. And it starts to stack up so that by the time they get to Chimera, they have a full and complete syllabus in striking and grappling and ground escapes and all of these different things that are important for self-defense. But I'm sure, as you're aware, self-defense in itself is not an extensive syllabus. It shouldn't be an extensive syllabus because it gets way too technical. So we have identified what physical skills we think are appropriate for each level, and we've made a little syllabus in that. So anybody that then wants to do the whole Animal Instinct certification can do that, but we have to do that bit in person because we don't want to be doing the physical skills online.
Okay. How long it takes to go through the whole course?
Well,
I know it's very, very dependent on people, how much effort they put. If they spend 8 hours a day, it's going to be a bit faster than one hour a week. But in general, average person like myself.
Most of the videos are between 4 and 8 minutes long, bite-sized chunks. Meerkat has got 20 videos and Rabbit has got 50 videos. So that should give you a rough estimate so that's, it'd be interesting to see who's going to be the first to finish, because we released the first versions. It doesn't go on general sale until the 25th of April, but we had a little kind of private mailing list group who wanted to get in early. So we have got some people that are currently working through the course because we released it to them just a few days ago. So I'll be interested to see how long it takes them. Right now, I think we have one person who's done 44% of Meerkat, if I'm looking at the data correctly. So perhaps he'll be the first person to finish one course and get his certificate. When you finish the online course, you can download your certificate of completion for that particular course.
And when did you say is properly released? 20th?
25th. Thank you very much for asking. How kind of you to ask when we're releasing our very important course, which will be fantastic for all your listeners. I'm sure will find very useful and interesting. It will go on general release on the 25th of April at a special discounted price for the first 4 days of release. I can't count, but the rest is all good. So that will be £75 for the Meerkat course and £95 for the Rabbit course, and no extra charges. It's just that's what you pay for the course. Take it away, use it in your classes, or don't use it in your classes if you don't like it. And if you love it, then obviously we'll have Bear and Chimera to come. And then if you love those, then they can come and do the whole, get the t-shirt, be an animal instinct instructor.
We're gonna have a link to the course here in the link in the show description notes. Sorry, lost the word. So make sure you're interested in that. You're gonna grab it. Yeah, I hope you're gonna like it. What would you? Because I see that a lot of times, kind of infuriating you. I think seeing on your responses online. Or people using self-protection and self-defense equally. Can we talk about it?
Well, it depends whether or not you want this Zoom to go on for another hour and a half. So Jamie and I prefer to use self-defense very strictly in the legal sense. Mm-hmm. And Jim's seminar, that's important if they want to understand more about the law. Lee's awesome, and he's very clear about all of these things. So for us, self-defense really focuses on the physical skills. Conceptually, self-protection is often used interchangeably with that, but we like to think of, personal safety, that range of behaviors that you develop that are about really good safety habits. So I would say that making sure that if you're a teenager, that your phone is fully charged and that you've let people know where you are, that's not self-defense. You're not throat punching anybody, but you're taking steps to ensure your safety.
So in self-protection, I think the physical skills are important, but not in a way that I think everybody is thinking about it. So punching, whatever, physical skills as a sport, I think. And I give an example. So Max and his friend is a very shy person, so he'd been a bit bullied in school. So Max suggested that I help him, and then he suggested that we should do some martial arts. So he done about 6 times a week. 6 times, once a week. And we see the difference. Suddenly the boys left them both alone, because they go now together in school and do a bit of a wrestling matches during the break. So people go like, hold on, they're doing something. We better not get near to them. And they haven't been approached at all. How will you see that physical element within a self-protection? I'm not talking about animal instinct, but overall, that I think that would building their confidence in one's ability.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you're talking about there is fantastic in terms of target hardening, because we know absolutely that someone who carries himself with confidence is less likely to be targeted, because the bullies are lazy. They don't have an alternative plan. They choose an alternative victim. Of course, that is not true of all predators. Some predators find a harder target, but that's unusual. Okay, mostly, if a child conducts themselves with confidence, they are less likely to be targeted. This is why, marginalized children, children who have children who are neurodiverse, or there are many things that kids can get targeted for. But learning some physical confidence is really important, and that physical confidence can come from dance or gymnastics or rugby, any of those things. But I think martial arts is unusual because it very explicitly teaches that. And we do drills, postural drills, where students will practice, and they'll read body language as well. We do body language reads from very young age, where we'll have one of the children come in and say, well, you're a new kid in the class, and then make everybody like hold a position and say, who would you choose to talk to? Who would be your friend? Who looks friendly? Who doesn't look friendly? And they also learn to manage their own body language as well. So standing taller, walking taller, making good eye contact, and taking the time to articulate carefully. These are all things that can help them hold respect in their peers, as well as be supported by the adults around them.
I think I agree. What is the next project you're working on? Because you are obviously very busy with Fair Fight, with Animal Instinct, running your Athena School of Karate seminars now. You would done, I think next week, is it?
Just the day before the seminar with Lee Sims, in fact. So a great weekend for people who should do both, right?
Yeah, but unfortunately, I think I'm going to cancel Lee because we've got one person interested, which is surprising for me because it's for the martial arts instructors who, wherever you look, everybody says about self-defense, and there's literally no interest in actually learning the law behind it.
I do not understand that at all. I've loved Lee's material, and I would highly recommend that people should do that. That's very peculiar, isn't it?
Maybe
I mean,
it's
obviously,
maybe wrong timing, and maybe they're all gonna book this week.
yeah, maybe that's true. Or maybe they're all going to come to mine and Don's and they can't get the whole weekend off. Maybe it's that.
Exactly.
Who knows? But yes, I have that coming up. It's a great honor. It was very kind of Don to ask me to team teach with him. So we're going to have a great seminar, I think. I'm very interested in his material, and I know how much you respect him as well. Very much enjoyed your joint seminar at Hanshi last year and found it very useful and interesting. So yes, I'm looking forward to that. Obviously still hard at work with my day job being Athena School of Karate, which I very much enjoy. I'm working a lot with 500 Rising, the women's self-defense, a licensed instructor with them, and sit on the European and UK Advisory Council as we really develop that program here. My next Fair Fight visit is going to be early 2025. We've decided to take a deep breath. We had a really very positive visit at the end of December, but it was a lot of hard work and a lot of fundraising, and I'm exhausted from fundraising. I really need to try and focus on my own school and other things that have been neglected in the time that I've been doing that. So it's a really important objective for me, but we've already planned out what we're going to do next time and building on what we managed to do this year. And we're very grateful to the UK martial arts community and beyond has been so supportive. We're really beginning to build up subscribers now. So people that are willing to pay a little bit every month, which is so useful to us in terms of planning and helps us immensely. But you know what they're like here. We've had like Tracy had Tommy recently. There's just so many people that understand exactly the same thing that we're talking about. There's massive benefits for underprivileged populations in learning martial arts because of the holistic benefits that it can bring, not just because of the throat punches.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna put all the links, so if you guys want to support Fair Fight, there's gonna be a link in the show notes. If you would like to support myself and grab me a coffee, there'll be a link to mine. And if you would like to get some merchandise, there's mugs, t-shirts, which part of it going to our project Karate for Mental Health. Thank you very much, Mary, for being a guest. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm looking forward to catch up with you when we're going to have some data after successful course completions.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on.
Pleasure.